Good afternoon, everybody. I'm your host, Crystal. This is another edition of the 9 O'clock Meltdown podcast. And over speakerphone, I have the oh-so-wonderful Matt Larson. You may remember him. He was a big staple up here in Duluth. And since then, you've moved all over the map, sir. And now you're kind of down in Milwaukee. We've talked off and on throughout the year that you've been kind of out of the scene, in the music scene, and kind of gone back and forth. I think the last big news I heard from you is you had met Pink, actually, and I'm still jealous of that.
Yes, I met Pink. She's little.
She's little?
Yeah, I met a few other people, but Pink was probably the most notable, I would say, at this point.
Yeah. And how did that come about? I know you, like I said, we've spoken many, many times over Facebook and throughout the years, and you just kind of go live life and things kind of happen to you.
Yeah, it's interesting. Since I've been down here, I kind of, you could say, let go of the reins a little bit. I just needed to get out of the Duluth area for a while, which, and then, as I'm down here, I just thought, I'm just going to let life I'm going to let it do the driving, and I'm just going to come along for the ride. Mm-hmm. It's been actually pretty good for me, I just happen to be at a hotel where most of the people stay, and I'm totally oblivious to what goes on most of the time in Milwaukee because I really don't watch TV or watch the news or see who's coming where. Mm-hmm. Long story short, I just happened to be there and bumped, hey, what's going on? Just had a conversation like it wasn't a big deal. So, that was interesting. But other than that, it was a good time. I've had fun. I've had a couple other people and done some music, but yeah, it's just craziness. That's all I have to say. It's just been a crazy, fun ride.
Yeah. And Matt, I've learned a bunch from you actually, just kind of about letting life happen, but then also kind of creating opportunities for yourself. And I remember back in college, a kid one time said, "Crystal, you're really, really lucky. You get these jobs and you get to meet these people." And I just said, "No, I'm not lucky. I create opportunities and I take them as they come up." I can definitely attest to that, and I can see that you're doing the same thing. So now, last we had spoke, you were kind of the band manager of Parlor, and they had put out a CD. We kind of sat down and talked about your managerial skills, kind of what you had going on there. And I guess what led you down to Milwaukee? I know Parlor is kind of disbanded a little bit from my understanding. They still get together now and again to do reunion shows and things like that, but you are no longer affiliated with them.
No, no. We took off and had an insanely great year, very productive. They played a lot. They got a lot of notoriety. And, once it started coming around, it just wasn't an overall comfortable thing for them. Mm-hmm. They had a lot of obligations with school at the time, and some family obligations, and just, certain things. And, and that's just how it worked out for them. And it's great. They all are doing fantastic. I'm still in communication, at least with Kieran most of the time. Who's the lead singer, and I just literally, I love that group of people. I love their music. I loved it when they got on stage. It just were magical, whether they believed it or not. You know what I mean? They were just, I always thought they were really great. So, and I still believe that, and I can't say enough about them as far as, they hold a very dear place in my heart. Changed a lot of ideas for me, especially like Mariah Guy, really opened my eyes up to a much bigger, greater purpose in life. Mm-hmm. And so, if she listens to this, thank you very much, Mo. And then, Kieran also just in his calm behavior, Chad Hoffman is creative, just straight music knowledge is overwhelming. Mm-hmm. Wilson is bass playing, and Zach was just being able to fill in and just kind of make those little bits of dead space just smoothly sound so much better for the whole band. So I liked all that. Yep.
Right. And now, Matt, we've talked off and on in great extent actually about the industry and the music industry and kind of what's expected and stuff like that. And honestly, I think the best advice I ever got from you, and I still use it today, when people say, Crystal, do A, B, and C. On one hand, I'm honored that they ask me and they believe that that can happen. But then on the other hand, I take it from you, and we had talked an extent about it, and you said it, that it is more than a full-time job. You practice, you give it your all, and you make sure that every night you hit the stage, you bring your A game. And now that doesn't excuse that, there are going to be mistakes. We are human. It's that practice, it's that routine, it's getting comfortable with everyone, it's knowing what's going to come next, it's knowing that if you skip something that you can come back to it and do it all again. It's work.
It
I think
is. It's just as much work for the artist to be able to go out and play. I think a lot of artists have this idea that if they just play some local shows, they're going to get discovered. And, if they play a couple shows a little bit away, they're going to get discovered. They get discouraged probably more than anything,
Right.
Because, there's that old adage, you get $10,000 worth of equipment in a $500 car to drive 200 miles for a $50 paying gig, and that's literally on whoever they're trying to play for. It's their end. It's the owners of these places. They're not realizing what music can bring into them, and if they help foster community, Duluth was good at fostering community, but they're not good at paying the musicians for the music.
Right.
And then the music started to become a little stale for a few minutes there. So, and I think it's really broadened out now from what I'm seeing. So, and that's a good thing. But I have friends who are full-time professional musicians, and they're practicing 4 hours a day, every day. Some teach lessons, some still practice their 4 hours a day. They teach lessons in the gig. I mean, I worked with a gentleman named Frank Vielle. Now, Frank Vielle is kind of an up-and-coming name, so you might want to write that one down. The guy is insane. He's like he's much more bluesy version of Bob Seger, if you can believe that.
Oh,
and
all right.
Yeah, he works a full-time job. He works 60 hours a week at his full-time job, right? He's a regional manager for a sales team, right? So he funds a lot of the things he does, but he goes on a tour with, Zach Myers from Alan Myers and more, who's also Shinedown. He goes with Howie Day. He goes with Lee DeWise. He goes out with, there's another guy, I can't remember who that name is now. Anyway, so he just goes out on these tours with them and goes on these 10, 12 day runs, and then he goes back home. So, yeah, he's funded it on his own, but he's still getting paid for his gigs,
Right,
but he's still some money out of pocket. And I think the last thing you and I kind of talked about, Crystal, was they got to look at music as a business, and that's what all of them are doing these days to become more profitable. Is they understand when they make their initial investment, yes, they're going to have equipment, they might have a vehicle, and they're investing into their time, but they also have to invest their money, and they have to know they're going to be on a lose proposition for at least 2-3 years if they're going to be pushing it. If they're not, they're always going to just maintain balance, and everyone needs a house, stuff like that. But when you're willing to be hungry, things tend to work a little better for you, what I mean? So
Right, and it's that artist struggle.
Right, you've got to be able to sacrifice stuff. If you want to be known, you want your art music out there, you're going to have to be able to say, look, I got $50. How far away can I go from where I'm at with $50? You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like the whole timing of people sitting back, resting on their morals of, well, I don't want to play music that way, or I'm not going to be a sellout. You know what? You can be a sellout if you feel like you're going to be a sellout, or you cannot be a sellout. If you're good and you're passionate about your music will be heard. Not everyone has the it factor. It always, I refer back, I live close to Chicago, and I have a few friends that are very close with Chance, the rapper. They've known him for his whole life. And they were like, that kid started rapping on the corner at 12 years old. And any money he got went back into his music, touring, going to places. He slept in cars, on park benches, anything and everything to make his music. And he started working his way up. And yes, he was still young, living at home, but he didn't really ever live at home because he was doing his music all the time. And he just became smart about the music. He manages himself. He's got a little team of marketing with him, but, he did it. And so there's a really big, street sign of saying they did it. The band Train was the same way. They just did it. 10 years of being in obscurity, and all of a sudden they create one song that one person heard that one time, and boom, there they went.
Right.
So
right. And
people have to remember time. It takes time.
It does. It takes time, and I've read countless books and blogs and things like that, and you will have those moments of highs and lows. You will have those moments of, oh my gosh, I got paid $150 or $250 from this one gig. That's awesome. I'm riding high. And then the next 3 months, you may not get a gig. It's like I said before, it's about that balance. It's about that kind of struggle back and forth. But in the words of, and I know you don't really care for Jared Leto, but in the words of Jared Leto, he's said it time and again. He's had tons of fails, more than he's had successes. And yes, is he where he's at now? Yes. Is he kind of a sellout? No, I think he's smart. I think he realized what he wanted. He knew what he wanted to do, and that was the best path for him getting to success.
The learning experiences really is what they end up being. That old adage of, even though it didn't really happen this way, but, Thomas Edison failed 10,000 times making a light bulb.
Right.
Even though we know he didn't really make the light bulb, but still, that's, how many failures does it take to make a success? And everyone's the same way. Jared Leto, the best thing about him is he networked the shit out of himself, and that's where he got where he is. But he's the type of person, Billy Joe Armstrong. You just think of Beyonce, you think of all these people who are there where you can say, oh, this person is good, we like their music, or they are known because they're celebrity, whatever. They have that little thing inside of them that says, I'm not going to quit.
Right.
And a lot of these people take the opportunities that they have, and it might not be something they completely agree with, but that opportunity provides them the ability to be able to do what they want to do. I keep coming back to Shinedown with Zach Myers. That guy he's a great guitarist. He's fantastic. He loves bluegrass music. So his Alan Mac Myers and More project is much more about the old-timey harmonies and, acoustic guitars and just having fun on stage. And he loves it, but he couldn't do that without the ability of Shinedown to be able to help him pay the bills so he can go do the things that he wants to do.
Right,
so it's a little bit of a sacrifice and a surrender in order to do what they love it. Everyone does it.
And Lady Gaga is the same way. She went to school to study jazz music, but yet to break out into her role, she did, pop, extreme, extravagant stuff for a long time. But it is all similar. We can make example out of example. Zeke Martin, who played a lot in Duluth and jazz drummer, is an insane musician, and that guy held it day in and day out. I've never seen him have a bad show in 20 years that I've known him and listened to his music. I just saw him a couple months ago out in Boston. He's way better than he was 2 years ago because he practices so much. He does the same thing, but he's in the jazz world, but now he drums for hip hop, does rock bands, he does music for wedding bands and just different projects all over on the East Coast. Right.
But he still loves jazz, and he's still really known for it, but all that other stuff helps him be able to pay the bills. He's away from 2 kids now, so he's got to still provide. So that's how it goes,
And Matt, you had mentioned a little earlier the term sellout. Can we dive into that a little bit? I'm always curious at people's views on the word sellout. Now, when we've talked about it before, I'm a punk. You're a bit of a punk. To me, selling out is you're sacrificing what you wanted to do originally, what you thought that your life would be, all this stuff for the bottom dollar and the money and the fame and blah 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 blah.
Okay, so let's look at it in the terms where I'm literally just talking to you on this one, but one of your favorite musicians of all time is Billy Joe Armstrong.
Yes.
Green Day. Green Day grew up in the punk world, right? And all of a sudden, magically, Dookie came out.
Yep.
Everyone's like, you're a sellout. Did you just watch the AMAs? That guy's still not a sellout. He still says shit straight up.
Right.
Joan Jett, same thing. Look at almost every musician from the 70s, even look at Frank Zappa. it is what it is. You know, you can always. David Bowie was really well known for very interesting music.
Yes.
He made 2 songs roughly that were much more poppy, so you could just make some money. Mm-hmm. And the rest of his album was fantastic David Bowie. Traditional, but he did a couple songs just out of his norm. And that really broke him into the mainstream atmosphere of the music world.
Right.
You know, I don't know. I don't know what a sellout would be. You know, people look at like Alanis Morissette, that she really changed everything she was from one thing to another to sell music. Well, you know what? People get hungry. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they just change who they are just in their thought process and growing up and, you know, maturing, and, you know, their music evolves around them. And, yeah, you can't fault somebody for wanting to make money. Right. To be able to do things that they really want to do. It's called freedom. Mm-hmm. And music gives you ultimate freedom regardless. So.
Mm-hmm. well, thanks, Matt. Yeah. As I asked that question, there was a heavy sigh. So thank you for humoring me. No, you're fine. You're fine. Do you get tired of being asked that question?
No, I don't. It's just, you know, sometimes in my mind, I have one thing going in my head, and I'm like, oh, I better not say it that way. You know, I'm never tired of answering those questions. I see things much differently today, you know, than I did 10, 20 years ago. You know, it's just, there's a larger picture that I've learned. It's called life and experience, you know. You know, I never played music like, you know, everyone else. I mean, I played, but I'm not like at those levels. Mm-hmm. I'm a much better observer and a much better business person than I was a musician. So.
Oh, right on. Yes. And, you know, Matt, I'm learning from the best. So thank you. Thank you very much. And it was the network of Duluth that brought us together. Let's dive into kind of the nitty-gritty of the music industry and the scenes in general. I mean, I truly do believe that all scenes are very similar, if not almost the same. You know, I mean, there's a bunch of different sides to scenes, and, you know, I've talked to musicians in Minneapolis, musicians on the East Coast, West Coast, you know, wherever, and there's very prominent sexism. There's, you know, well, I'm gonna pay you X amount, but, you know, the front band's not gonna get as much money because they're playing less time than the main band that everybody's here to see. I mean, it's a business. Basically, it is not a free-for-all.
It's a negotiation. How about that?
Negotiation. There you go. Yes. Mm-hmm. Now, throughout my time of doing radio and things like that, I learned about contracts. I learned about negotiation, but I learned about networking too. And and you said it best, sir. You said networking is where it's at. It's not necessarily about what you can play. I mean, that plays a part in it, definitely. But it is about networking.
It is. You know, it's who you know, honestly. I mean, I've always been one of these lucky people who just happen to be at places and meet people that are famous. For some reason, because I don't remember anybody, you know, I have a very short-term memory for, like, oh, I know this person, but I can't think of who they are. I'm just, like, horrible with it unless I've spent an enormous amount of time with you or whatever. But, you know, and I just pick up conversations with people all the time, you know. It's like, last month I was in Madison, and I'm just sitting there and talking to this guy just randomly, and it's Lou Ferrigno. You know, it's like, what? You know, I'm like, what are you doing here, you know? Didn't even think about it until after I met him. I talked to him for a while. So it's just crazy. I always tell people in the business world, the one thing people forget most is that 3-foot rule. Anybody within 3 feet of you should be having a conversation with if you're trying to sell your goods. That even goes for being a musician. You're selling your wares, your talent, your music, your heart, your soul. But then they also have to remember the balance to that. You know, you can have Beyonce. She talks about, she's Beyonce 99% of the time, but when she's on stage, she calls her a stage personality, Sasha Fierce, whatever. Mm-hmm. Almost everyone who goes on stage has a different personality, and I've talked to a lot of musicians. They just change when they go on stage because they have to have a stage front. So when you're networking, you're your stage front. Mm-hmm. And then when you're networking business, then you're yourself. much
Right.
two different people, but you still have to blend those together. You have to talk to people. You have to get out there. You can't be afraid to say, buy my shit. You know, so many musicians have a hard time going, I have a merch table in the back. Well, what a great pitch. I have a merch table in back. How about this? I have the best album I've ever produced sitting on that back table. It's $10. Please buy a CD and take it home. You know, that's how I pay my bills. There's a nice T-shirt there that I use, you know, all organic cotton. Or I printed them ourselves. We created the design ourselves, and we just had a little machine. We screen printed them all ourselves just for you. There's so many different ways you can sell the same thing that everyone else is selling. Like you just connecting to your audience, connecting to people, networking it in. Buy this, buy that. You don't have to give shit away. If someone goes, "Can I have that for free?" You'd be like, "I couldn't buy my guitar for free." You know. I couldn't get here for free. I want to go home. You know, I want to eat something. Can you buy my CD? You know what I mean? It's like people just don't get it. So you have to be a little bit of a salesperson and a little bit of a, I shouldn't say taker, but you have to be a little bit of a greedy person. Say, buy my stuff. I invested. Please buy it. If you don't, I don't have time for you. Move on. You know what I mean?
Right.
It has to be very cut and dry.
Right, and I can attest to that too. I ran Hobo Nephews of Uncle Frank, their merch table, for many years, and yeah, it's definitely about kind of selling that. I mean, obviously the band is Alexi Brothers are selling their music on stage, yes, but when those people come back, it is up to me to put that great smile on my face and get them to buy even more than what they had originally intended. And 9 times out of 10, I could get it done. Now, sadly, people have moved on to all digital music, so I don't know what's happening now.
The worst thing about digital music, and this is the big raging debate out there, it's like, okay, put it on Spotify. Spotify makes 99% of all the single dollar that's made. Right. You know, for the musician. You know, how fucked up is that? You know what I mean? And you have to own and control your own music. And my friend Zeke, actually, he's like, here's the thing for my new CD. I'm like, cool. I go, how much is it? But, well, you have to buy it on, I can't remember, on his website. You buy it, you download it. I'm like, cool. But how much is it? He goes, I don't know. And I'm like, dude, come on. You gotta know how much your music is. Yeah. I'm like, I don't care, but I just wanted to know. Right. You know, you still have to protect yourself. And I know Spotify lets people look at and listen to your music all over the place, and you know, the Bands in Town was another one, and there's a whole bunch of them. You know, people use, and you know what? If you're not making money on your music, what's the point? You paid to record it, you paid for the music, you paid for your time, you paid for the food that it took, you're paying for the engineers, you're paying for the production, you're paying for the ability to host it, to be able on your website. You know, it's like, if you're going to do it socially, you better do it good, and you better do it right. If you don't know how to do it, hopefully one of your friends does, and it'll totally help you out. But that's the most important thing, is being able to touch people, feel them, blow up your network, expand your Facebook, you know, post live from stage. You know, if you're singing, who cares, you know? Fuck it. People love it.
They do. And honestly, one of the things that I learned throughout my time being, you know, kind of the communication, digital, Facebook media person, people on social media, they don't want, you know, this big, huge production of fancy lights and stuff like that. They want you sitting in your living room playing a song. They don't want that. They want raw. They want real. So I think that really does open the floodgates to individual, more independent musicians that don't have access to, you know, Warner Brothers or, you know, EMI. And so it opens it up. And I think more people need to jump on that bandwagon and do it like that. Because then it does open those floodgates. Yes, is there a lot more to sift through? Totally. But you know, after you go and you see a band, or maybe you hear them on YouTube, then you hit the subscribe button and you see all their stuff that they have ever done. I mean, it's easy.
Yeah, and you have to spend time on your site. You have to spend time on your Facebook page. You know, there's a musician down here that I've done some work with named Evan Christensen, where if you really want to check him out, please do. The most insane flamenco guitarist that can sing rock and roll like you would believe. Sickeningly good. He spends almost zero time on Facebook, and he literally doesn't play outside of Milwaukee. And you're like, why? And he's like, well, book me in places. I'm like, what are you going to do to get there? This is what you need. This, and this, and this. Well, I'm not ready for that. Okay, well, then don't.
Oh,
You know,
right.
It's that same aspect. You have to put in the effort. You can't just, go to Wix and put up a cheap page if that's all you can afford, and spend the time on the cheap page the best you can to make it better. Or if you don't know how to do it, get your network. Find like-minded people like yourself. If you're motivated to go and do it, man, there's really no stopping you. People who are motivated are motivated. They just get there. And it's always about time and place. Travel by Turtles did it, but they spent a lot of time on the road, sleeping in vans, cars, and literally playing anywhere and everywhere they could. The same scenario. Just got to do it.
Yep.
Yeah, and even like what was it, Uncle Frank? I mean, Alexa told me one time, he's like, "Look, if you can get me a gig for $200 in Denver, I'm on the road going." And I'm like, who the hell is not going to take the reins on that and go, let's make this guy huge?
Right.
But I love that guy.
Yeah.
And and that's the type of motivation you need from somebody to be like, yeah, I'll put you a bar somewhere. And people have to remember, in March is some of the best time to be playing live music. There are places from Duluth all the way down to this little town in Texas called Austin for a big show called South by Southwest, if anyone's heard it. And there are thousands of places between Duluth or Minnesota or wherever the hell you live when you listen to it in Austin, Texas, that will book your ass in to play to help you pay for gas to the next town to play for the next town to play, to get into South by Southwest and play. Because that place has, I don't know, 5 million people that come through here to listen to music during that South by Southwest. So it's like, there's a good chance you'll be seen. There's an awesome chance for networking. Also going down to Nashville. I hate to say it, but as much as I'm not a big country music fan, Nashville has nothing to do with country music almost at all anymore. I was just there like 2 weeks ago. It is the most eclectic group of music, and it's so underground and it's so quiet. It's insane. I mean, there's a guy I saw who literally was just playing his guitar, and you swear to God, it was just, you're like, that's Robert Johnson reincarnate. I mean, he was just living the blues like you wouldn't believe, and his own music was unbelievable. Rock music, there's all kinds of different independent artists just hanging out, singing, young kids and young women, lots of women singers, which is great. I see that, people aren't ashamed of it. There was hip hop and rap. I mean, the town was so eclectic. It's not that far, from where I live. It's like 8 hours drive,
Right.
So it's really not hard to tank a gas, basically. But, I don't know. People just have to learn how to get the hell out of their area and move along.
Yes.
They do. Sorry, I come back to that a lot, I guess. I apologize.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I mean, Matt, that's what worked for you. You were in Duluth, you bounced around a bunch, and now you're in Milwaukee. So, yes,
Which isn't the music mecca of the world, I tell you. If you want to see a good cover band, though.
Yeah.
But you know what? They make money.
Oh.
Sorry. Funds a lot of their side projects.
Right. Let's jump into that really quick. So there's a big debate going on, at least in the Duluth music scene, probably the wider music scenes as well, of original music versus cover music. Now, what is your stance on that, sir? Because I have always heard that cover acts make money, and even the Alexi brothers told me this too. Ian told me that when he was out on the East Coast, he's like, cover acts, they made the money. Original music, maybe if the owner had heard your stuff before, but, I guess where's your stance on that one?
Well, I'm kind of right there with everyone else. I'm not a huge fan of cover bands. Because you can be a cover band, but you better be better than the band that you're covering in order to really do it. Now, like I said, my friend Zeke out in Boston, he drums for a band that does weddings. They call them GB bands, just general business bands, right?
Okay.
And they make $8,000 a show without even blinking an eye. And they're just a cover band playing everyone else's music, but they do it really, really well.
Right.
So, anyone can sing covers and whatever. Again, it goes back to sometimes you have to do what you have to do in order to make some money to do what you love.
Right.
It's just like that in life, It's like I spent a lot of time in Duluth doing stuff, and I was working for other people, and I hated it. And I started just kind of doing side projects on my own. Next thing I know, I'm fully working for myself, and I don't have somebody else barking at me what to do. And it's always nice to have that freedom to choose. Hey, today is Saturday. I'm going to stay all the way into 7:15 this morning. Oh yeah,
Uh-huh.
But you get up and you got your hustle on, and that's all it is. Just get your hustle on and get going. I have no worries about people who play cover music, because some people do it great. If you have a certain style of music you like, do the cover music in your style. It makes it a little easier. It's not a sellout. It's making money, so you can buy that instrument, you can get that car, you can have that gas money to go do your original music, because eventually your original music will be better than your cover band music, and then you're playing your music all the time.
Right, exactly. And, I think one of the better cover acts, I mean, at least one that I know of, that most people know of, is Marilyn Manson. I mean, for a long time, I literally thought Marilyn Manson, that was his original music, because it was so unique. It was so different. You can take a cover song and make it your own. I'm like, huh?
Yeah. Well, if you really want to look at even the history going back, I mean, it's been happening, how long, but, it's just sticking in my mind, because the other day I watched this documentary on All People, Linda Ronstadt, right? Like, who remembers her? I do. Her first 5 albums went multiple platinum, and all of her big hit songs were covers. Yeah. All of them.
Right. Exactly. I mean, I learned...
are you kidding me?
I learned the other day that Sinead O'Connor, her big song, of course now I'm drawing a blank, but it was a Prince song.
Nothing compares to you.
Yes. She took one of Prince's songs, and that made her huge. And I was like, what?
Well, she sang it the way Prince really wanted it to be sang, but he didn't have it in him that way. Everyone knows that. Prince music was just, we can't even touch Prince in Northern Will I, because that's at an elevation that's way above me to even start discussing it. But
for another time.
Covers are out there all the time. I mean, you can go back to that one band that did that covered Smooth Criminal and did it like almost ska punk.
Yes.
Back in the day. There's
Ant something.
Yeah, you get into this different, like, who cares? Yeah, you're already banned. Oh, they already have a name. Well, they didn't have a name,
Right.
You have to do sometime. Just the way it goes, People want to hear something familiar. Sometimes if you give them a little bit of something, you can pull them in, you can reel them in a little easier to your stuff. And then you can start, next thing they know, they're like, oh my God, here's a good example. Paper Parlor. They used to do a cover of Machine Gun that was absolutely mind-blowing, the Jimi Hendrix song. But all their other music was really good, but people would come to hear that.
Right.
When they would cover it, and then they didn't want to play it for a while, I don't think, but it's so good. But that's just kind of how you balance things out sometimes to be able to pull people in, but who cares? I mean, if you do it good, do it better than the original, you're never going to lose out.
Right. Or cater it to what you know. I mean, there have been times that I've been in vocal lessons and I take, a punk Green Day song and I turn it into a jazzier song. I mean, all it is lyrics. You can change them to fit your style and fit what you want to do. I mean, you don't have to do it like the absolute original.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what, you just mentioned something else that a lot of people who are musicians that they think about practice all the time, right? They practice. But do they get vocal lessons? Do they pay somebody to help them sing better? Right. You know what I mean? One of the greatest examples, there's 2 great examples. One's Bruce Springsteen, the other one's John Bon Jovi. Neither one of them could hardly sing for shit when they first started. And then as you listen to the music as they progressed, they all of them had a singing voice. It's like they worked on it and they kept working on it, and that's just not singing. That they learned how to control their voice, they learned how to sing, they learned how to vocalize. And magically, when you're investing into something and you're investing into it, like I need to learn how to do that, or I just need to get better at this or that, and I want this to incorporate in. Boy, you know what? Spend a few dollars and learn how to do it.
Right, exactly. And, to that, Patrick Stump, the lead singer of Fall Out Boy, I mean, the very first album that those guys came out with, holy cow, could that guy not carry a tune in a bucket? I mean, all over the map, just absolutely atrocious. The band was solid, he wasn't. And then he went and got vocal lessons. Second album they put out, I mean, that is the Patrick Stump, and that is the Fall Out Boy that we know today. But he invested in it. It was something that he wanted to do, and he invested in it. And so basically, in this whole entire conversation, Matt, we can take away a couple things. One, invest your time, possibly money, but more so time. Network the crap out of yourself, even if you don't think it's valuable. Do it anyway, because you never know what'll come about it.
You never know who you're going to meet.
Exactly. And then 3, persevere.
Yeah.
Excellent. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, some days you're going to feel like dog shit, and you're going to have to get up and practice anyway.
Right. Right. And, I mean, there's going to be fails, and there's going to be discouragement, and there's going to be somebody that doesn't like your work or doesn't think it's good enough, or, whatever it is. I mean, whatever it is. But it's a matter of not listening to that and saying, bottom line, you know what, I'm doing this for me. If you like it, that's awesome. If not, oh well,
Don't listen to it if you don't like it. There's a bunch of, we're in a podcast now, so it's really easy to tell people, look, if you like my stuff, great. I'm happy to, do my, if you don't, do my thing for you. If you don't like my music, fuck off. I don't care.
Right, exactly.
I've got something to say, and this is how I'm saying it.
And, I mean, I've watched countless documentaries and talked to countless indie musicians and musicians that have been, in that, quote, sellout status and stuff like that. And it's all the same. There are people that love their work. There's people that worship them. There's people that, I listen to it now and again. And there's people that absolutely hate it. Bottom line is it's art, and art is subjective. And I hate that saying. I hate that it's that way, but it is. I mean, my art is so subjective. But throughout the 17 years that I've been doing it, I have never quit. Because it's something that I want to do.
It's one of those things you have to do. No matter what, you have to do it. And you have to do it for yourself, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you don't get up and start doing your art that you're starting to create, going, God, blah, 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 down the street would just love this if I did it this way.
Right.
Fuck that guy down the street or whatever, that person. I'm going to do it my way.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is what my soul is telling me, how my heart beats. I'm very big at talking, about people get down on musicians who die of overdoses, and they get down on people who do, are just, they all of a sudden just blank out. Well, they don't realize how much of a soul it takes to do your art and to do it consistently for years and have people tell you your shit every day for 15, 20 years, but, you're making money on your music or your art. They just don't get what it takes out of somebody to do it.
Oh, exactly. I mean, and then...
Well, just think, whenever anyone doesn't get your artwork, or your work where you create or whatever, just throw out Jackson Pollock. He just splattered paint on a thing, and he just sold one of his paintings sold for what, $99 million or something like that.
Right. Right.
You're like, okay.
Yep. Exactly. But it was interesting to see. It was a different endeavor for me. And then, of course, in the oh so wonderful quote, sellout view, I got an email from a California company. They had seen my work online, and they wanted to print it on t-shirts. Now, in their contract, any artwork that you gave them was automatically theirs. You no longer owned the right to it. You could no longer sell it, blah, blah, blah. And I'm a contract kind of person. I understand that stuff.
Right.
So I gave them 2 pieces of artwork. Turns out they went onto my profile, stole one of them, and of course I didn't sell anything through their company in like 2 weeks. So they dropped me. And then I felt so dirty, I felt so dirty that I had like given this piece of myself to this company that wanted to turn it around into a profit, But because I, wasn't known in California, I didn't sell anything, or maybe it didn't turn out, or whatever the hell it was. It was years ago. But I felt so bad that I could no longer, sell this artwork for myself and or give it away to friends. But it was an eye-opening experience for me that companies
Well,
do
don't
that.
feel bad. Musicians have been doing that for years. They're still doing it.
Yeah.
So, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But
at the end of the day, it comes down to, like I said, I've had a couple really interesting conversations about it. Owning your rights to your art, whatever it is the most important thing you can do.
Right.
Don't give it away. I mean, if you want to give it away, that's fine. Just know that somebody at some point is going to try to use it for their own gain.
Oh, right.
Always copyright your songs. Mm-hmm. If you're writing songs, always try and trademark your signatures or however you finish up a piece of artwork or whatever you do. You have to put your stamp on it, and it has to be known it's your stamp. And if somebody is using it to their advantage, then you got to be able to say, hey, no. You're getting profit from this or using it to make profit, and it's mine. So that's my profit. You know what I mean?
Right.
You have to kind of be a little bit of an asshole every once in a while.
Yes, which is another conversation we had, being a bull in a china shop, especially when you're being a band manager. I mean, you're the one that's negotiating the contract for the band. I mean, they're over there focused on their art and giving the best performance. You're the one that's on part networking for them, getting their name out there, shaking those hands. But then when it comes down to the money part, you got to be ruthless about it. Because it's not only your paycheck, it's not only your networking skills, but it's also about the band as well.
And I mean, if there's a band out there that, or somebody in the music world that's listening to this, I'll tell them that if they're accepting $50 gigs for someone to sit there and go, hey, why don't you come play at my bar and I'll pay you $50.
Yeah.
You know what? If you practiced for an hour in the past month, fine, $50 is what you deserve. But if you're practicing every day and you're putting your heart and soul into it and you've got some of the nicest equipment that you could possibly afford, right? And you're taking care of it, you're writing your own songs, you're putting your blood, sweat, and tears in there, and someone's like, you know what? Because you've been doing that, I'll give you $150. You should be able to sit there and go, no, I'm at least worth $300 for 90 minutes. Right. That's all I really want. You have to know your value. That's the trick. It's knowing your value, creating your own value. And I talked about that a lot when I was doing it with a lot of the musicians I worked with, is you have to know what you're worth. I mean, do you want to play a $150 show that someone may or may not pay you for? And they were like, oh, we'll give you food and beer, and something to drink, whatever. That's great. Thank you for letting me eat, but, I still want to go to the next town and play some on.
Right.
I don't care if I have a hotel. I just want to have gas money and food money. I need to have some money. I need to pay some bills when I'm done. There's 5 people in my band, $50, $10 per person. Give me a break. But you do something for 9 minutes for $10, fuck you.
Right. And Matt, I completely get that. When I was venue manager here, I always fought for the band that was coming in, that was touring, that, wanted to play the venue that I was at. And it's like, hey, we can't just give them some food and call it good. Like, they're traveling. They need some gas money. They need, this, that, and the other thing. That's not my job. It's my job to get acts in here and to provide them with substantial payout, so they can bring in audiences, so you can make money.
Respectable. I mean, seriously. Something. Go to any store. You know what? Let's just make it super simple. Go to a Menards and say, I want to build a house. Right. And you want to buy one of their house kits. It's like $50,000, right?
Okay, yeah.
And just be like, you know what? Let's just buy this house. But you know what? Because I'm going to put it up, I'll put your name on it for, I don't know, a couple days before and a couple days after it's finished. And you know what? I tell you what, I'm only going to pay $5,000 of it. But, look at all the exposure I'm going to give you from the people who drive down my road and look at it every day.
Right.
Is that a smart investment? It's not a smart investment.
No.
People have to understand, sit there and say no.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's some bars that are trying really hard to get music acts in, and it's really great. But you know what? If you can't afford to have a musician come in and play, then don't.
Right.
Even if you have to do it once a month and you can pay somebody $200 to come in, that's better than paying them $50 and saying, here's some food and beer, because realistically, the food and beer you write off as a loss, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then the $50 you write off as a labor fee, so you're not paying anything out of your pocket. $250 is the magic number for bars and restaurants. That's where they have to start declaring this is what they're doing, and they don't want to do that because then they have to show the profit in real time of the drinks and all that other stuff. Don't waste people's time. I don't care if you have a sound manager or not, or somebody who runs the sound. Great, you hired a sound guy. That's part of your investment. My investment is to put on a good show.
Mm-hmm.
And as a musician, it's your job to put on that good show and die on stage, so to speak. Mm-hmm. But then the audience has to know to leave the damn musician alone for at least 15, 20 minutes after the show. Let them do their thing, get off, let them come down, because they just basically died for you on stage.
Right.
Have some respect all the way around. If people are just so me-oriented, it drives me nuts. So, as you can tell.
Right. Let's, since I have you on the phone here, and I do apologize, this may be going a little longer than what you had anticipated, but let's jump into that a little bit. Let's jump into just the kind of common respect that you need to have for everybody, whether that's the sound guy, the musician, the manager, the person running your merch table. It's just that kind of respect thing. I mean, you don't walk up, and this has happened to me before, you don't walk up to the merch person after the band has played a couple songs and say, oh, will you give me that CD for free? I know, X on stage. No. That is not how they make money. That is not how I get paid. So absolutely not. You can go talk to them after their set. But no, I am not going to give you anything for free.
Absolutely not. You know what? Yeah, absolutely. People don't understand the minimum cost to record a song is usually, in a professional studio, is at $400. Usually, give or take. Depending on where you go. Can you do it at home with Apple Music and do a shitty quality stuff? Sure. You can do that. Mm-hmm. People don't understand it costs a musician a couple dollars to get the CD. It costs them some money to bring it to you. It costs them some time and money to practice to get out on the stage for you to like it. Mm-hmm. It takes some time to buy the equipment. It takes time to do all kinds of different things. Nobody realizes what it takes. And if you're deciding to go see a band play, how about you watch them?
Right.
Don't sit at a fucking table and talk to all your stupid friends about their goddamn dumb social network life when you're watching a band who's killing it for you. If you don't want to listen to the band, go to a different place. Have some respect. Show them the respect that they're trying to give you and put on good stuff.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right.
Drives me nuts. It costs money. People have to be a little bit more ballsy. Minnesota Nights doesn't work in the rest of the world. I have a very, very, very good friend who kind of known as the merchandise king of all the rock bands in the country. I mean, I'd love to sit down and just talk to him. I'd love to actually put you in the same room, and he'll tell you about all of them. I mean, he knows them all.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, this guy's such an asshole. All this lady's such a bitch. They treat you horribly. But he goes, I never give anything away. He goes, we're allowed to give away X amount of shirts, X amount of music per show, because that's allowed. Unless their label buys it.
Right.
If the label buys it, you give nothing away for free.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
You know what I mean? So it's like, people gotta understand, don't give shit away for free. If you want to, you just feel like you're carrying enough, you give it away for free, they've got nothing invested to listen to it and show their friends.
Right. Yeah.
It's true.
Oh, yeah. No, I completely agree. I mean, and you brought up the point of after a label buys something, I mean, then that label owns it. I mean, I'm sorry, but it's the same construct as when I gave away some of my art to that California t-shirt outfit. I mean, they own it. You've got nothing to say on that. If you want a free-for-all...
Unfortunately, you're right, yeah.
If you want a free-for-all, go record it in your house and jet it out on Spotify for however much it costs. Which, actually, in the digital world now, it costs money to put your music out digitally. So, all of it's down to business.
if you want to give anything away as a musician, the best thing you can do is create a logo that you're going to take with you for your whole life, right? You know what I mean? Like, that's just your logo, your brand. It's just like any business. You create an identifying logo, right? Put it on a sticker that costs you half of a cent to have it made. And you buy 10,000 of those fucking things for $7 on Vistaprint. And then you go to shows and people are like, oh my God, can I get some for free? Here's a sticker. No, I want a CD. Those are $15. Even though you have, $1.50, $2 into each one, right? You still want to capstone your profit margin on it because, again, people need to eat. People need to go to places. It's got to be worth your time. If people are going to hassle or haggle about it, just be like, you know what, you don't need any of my shit, then just go away. Give me my sticker back. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. And
have some pride in your art. Have some pride in yourself. I mean, I guess one of my good friends in Duluth is in a little band called, I just love him. He does his music. It's Trash Cat. So, Sean, if you're listening, I love your band still. He's a cover band, and he just plays on these little shows in Duluth. I love it. Love it. If that guy invested more into his music, which he's done on other occasions, his shit is phenomenal.
Yeah.
But, he decides just to give his stuff away for free. That's just what he decides because he wants to do it that way. Right. Would he make more money on it? Yeah, absolutely. But I don't think he cares. So there's a difference there. But if you're trying to make yourself known, to grow, to get bigger, and you want an opportunity to be known, you just keep doing the status quo. I'll just tell anybody, stop being status quo. Music is all about pushing the limits, pushing the envelope. Say the shit you want to say. It's important to you to say it. I learned that from Mariah Sky. She would say anything, sing any of her songs. All of her lyrics have literally something poignant to say. And the place that she's living. You know what I mean? So it's like, I love it. I love that part of music. I love that part of art. Push it. What are they going to tell you? No? Okay. That person will tell you no. This person will tell you yes.
Right.
I don't care.
Exactly. And, like we were saying earlier, you're going to have stumbling blocks. You're going to have, quote, fails. But no, those aren't fails. Those are another means to get to success. And Matt, to your point, to your friend's point, if he wants to create his music and give it out for free, awesome. More power to you. You can do it that way too. There's no real right or wrong way to do it. You got to do what you want to. It's about what you feel comfortable with and what you feel good about doing. This whole conversation, it's about what do you want to do? Now, I will fight tooth and nail for the artist and believe that they should get paid what they're worth, and that just doesn't go for musicians. That goes for everybody across the board.
Right. Artists in general. But you have to be good at your art. Honestly, there's some people out there who really think they're great artists, whether they're musicians or artists, and they really aren't very good. And you have to know your reality and your expectations are two totally different worlds. Right. Yes, people can practice to become better, but some people just kind of screw around with it, and they're like, oh, I'm an artist. Look at me go. Taylor Swift. But anyways, at the end of the day, you sit there and you're like, there's people out there who've been bleeding. Tom Waits is one of those. For years, you know what I mean? We could have long conversations. Joan Jett, let's just talk that, They're artists, they do stuff, they say their things, and they're just not really as recognized as they should be. And then there's people who are just horse crap. And you're just like, how the hell are you how the hell are you that way? But, somebody's buying it, they found their niche. Good for them.
So let's jump into really, really quickly here. Taylor Swift. When she dated Tom Hiddleston, and I love Tom Hiddleston, he's absolutely amazing. Shortly after,
honestly, though, do you blame the guy?
No.
It's their thing, You can't. She's a drama queen, which is great. But
she found her niche.
What she's putting out. This is what she's putting out. I don't know what her life is behind the scenes. I don't live it. And Taylor's a product of her environment. When she first came out, she couldn't sing a lick. If you remember, listen to some of her old stuff. She couldn't. she was so tone deaf it wasn't even funny. She's worked at it.
Uh-huh.
You know, maybe she's auto-tuning a little bit, but you know, her art is selling. I mean, who the hell can't say that it's not? You know, she has a catchy song. She has a good ear for harmony, things like that. But you know, do I consider her a real musician? You know, I want to see her break it back down and go do some bluegrass or go do some blues or do something different, and then put that out there and see what people say.
Right.
You know, stretch herself. She's not stretching herself as a musician, which you know, I guess you can sit there and look back at. You know, a band, you know, look at, we can go back to Prince, Minnesota, you know, King. The guy started one way, and then he ended up being completely different, but he pushed himself. Every album, he's pushing himself in a different direction to be better, to be this. You know, and his last concert tour, he wanted to play the piano more because he said he wanted to work on playing the piano more.
Right.
So he didn't even play his guitars anymore. So, you know, you got to think about things like that. You know, I just don't see her as a commodity, like a really good, like somebody in 15 years, we won't be going, oh my God, Taylor Swift.
Right. And
Whitney Houston and Taylor Swift, you know, you're not gonna put those in the same conversation. But for music sales and what they've done, you know, they have really catchy hooks. They have a lot of people who now work for them. The industry loves them.
Yep.
You can't say too much about it. It's hard.
Right.
Some people who just write stuff just to write it, and they're good with putting, you know, hooks together.
Right.
And they're good with, you know, and then they have good music to go around them. You know, I think Taylor has a lot more work into her music than people know, but I think she's now become a product, and she's told what to do, when to do it, how to do it, how often.
Yep.
Because she keeps producing and producing and producing. It's almost like Beyonce. You know, they love Beyonce because she's like Beyonce, but her music is now stagnant in how it sells because she keeps putting out more and more and more and more music.
Right.
Eventually, she should stop for a while and then bring something out, and she'll be, you know what I mean? Like, give people a break with your stupid voice for a while. you're whining about some dude that broke your heart. You know, I don't give a shit. You know.
Right. But also another thing I think people need to realize is once you get up to a certain status, let's say, like Taylor Swift or Pink or whatever it is, you don't necessarily become a musician, you become a brand. You're there to sell this product, not only just with your music, but, you know, whether you're wearing something on stage, like, oh, look, they're wearing Gucci shoes, or, you know, whatever it is. And I think that's the part that people don't necessarily see, is that your bottom line is you're there to make somebody else money. You know, you're just another worker.
They are. They're dressed for these award shows and things of that nature, but, you know, it's like, I'm actually more impressed with people who are still wearing the same shit they wore 10 years ago, and it's all worn out, you know, still.
Right.
And you look at a couple bands and a couple musicians that are kind of the unique, you know, I hate coming back to it, but John Bon Jovi, he has like 6 restaurants that give away food to people who are homeless. You know, and he has like, pay what you feel it's worth restaurants, and he's doing well with it, believe it or not. But you know, you look at Coldplay, they're no longer going to be putting out music that is, you know, at cost, because they all have enough money that they're not even going to tour anymore, really. They're just going to do free concerts. It's like, yeah, did it fall on their face a little bit because it was free? Yeah, that's just because corporations still want to make a ton of money off of them, and they just don't want anybody to make any money off of them, especially themselves anymore. They want their music to be free. You know, the transcending the U2 has been that way. Bruce Springsteen's that way. I mean, we can go on and on. You know, it's like, where's another We Are the World collaboration? You know, it's just not there.
Bring it back.
Well,
people.
no, you know, but mainstream music is not there anymore. It's for somebody to sit there and go, you know, screw you, this is wrong, purely wrong. I mean, yeah, Taylor Swift in this last song kind of put out there, like, leave me alone, press. Like, ooh, you're really pushing it. You're bashing the press that you've been bashing your whole career. But, you know, look for equal rights, you know, look for rights for, you know, people who are, you know, LGBT, you know, like, push that limit, you know?
Yeah.
Somebody needs to start saying some shit, and who's in it, you know, whatever. I think.
Yeah. So, Matt, are you saying My Chemical Romance needs to come back? Is that what you're saying?
What now? Oh, My Chemical Romance is back?
No, does My Chemical Romance need to come back? Because that was their shtick for a long time, that they pushed the envelope and said things.
They're back together trying to do some shit.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll believe it when I see it. I'm sorry, but one LA show does not constitute a reunion in my mind.
Oh, it's called, he did a TV show, and now he wants to make a little bit more money, so he did a one-off. With a bunch of people he finds annoying.
Oh, right on, right on. Anyway, Matt, thank you so much for taking time to talk to me and to kind of get down to the nitty gritty of things. I mean, bottom line, it's about money, but it's also about a business too. I mean, you could freewheel it, and that's totally fine. That's totally up to you. That's awesome. That's great if you want to do it that way. But yeah, bottom line is put yourself out there and network the shit out of yourself if you want to go anywhere. So.
Well, yeah, but just have pride in who you are. Take a personal accountability for where you are. If you want to be better, become better. You know, step forward and don't sit and rest on your laurels all the time. Like, bleeding hearts of the world unite. You know, move forward and beyond it and grow.
And
get her done.
No, and Matt, I can attest to that too. I had a college professor one time tell me, you know, Crystal, in the art world, you don't stay stagnant. You keep moving forward and you keep changing and you keep evolving because you keep growing. Once you stay stagnant, why are you doing it? And I've always carried that with me even till this day. So
let anyone tell you no, live your dream. It's your life, not theirs.
Exactly. Well, Matt, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you too. Bye.
Bye.